thanks for coming to this POCD workshop. This is a POCD Core Committee and Planning Commission public workshop. Convene the meeting, and it's November 21st, 2024 at 7 p.m. We are in the Brookfield High School auditorium. Myself, I'm Scott Dale. I'm the chairperson of the Planning Commission. To my left is Mark Mullengar, who is a regular member of the Planning Commission as well. The other members of the POCD Core Committee, we have Kurt Timmerman, who is the Zoning Commission chairperson. We have Jim Fisher, who is the chair of the Economic Development Commission, and then to his right at the end is Tony Capiello, chair of the Conservation Commission. So we're glad all you folks could come and be part of this. We're glad folks are listening and watching online. This is an opportunity for you folks to give us some input. We want to hear from you as to what we want to have in this POCD, which is the plan for the next 10 years for Brookfield. Okay. In addition to the folks that I just mentioned, we have an outside consultant that's going to help guide us through this process. And so that is BFJ Planning, and I'm going to have them take over from this. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. My name is Frank Fish, and I'm with BFJ Planning, one of the principals. And up here with me, Emily Tolbert is also going to give part of this presentation, and she's our project manager. And then Evan is our project planner, so we're all going to participate in this presentation to you tonight. So, and I want to just let's see if I just go through the public workshop tonight. But I want to also mention to you that what we're doing is everything we do, the product goes first to Laura, and who's sitting in the front seat, your planner, and then to the committee itself that's doing this Plan of Conservation and Development. So we call it a POCD for short. And so tonight what we'd like to do is just go through this presentation first, and then sort of have a coffee break. And you probably noticed there's boards out there. So during the coffee break, we're going to hope that you can comment on the goals and vision. First, your existing plan was done back in 2015. So what we did is put up all the goals of the 2015 plan. Now we think things may have changed, so we've got sections there where you can put some red dots on if you don't like something that was done in 2015, or green dots if you like it, you want it emphasized in this coming plan, and then there's a whole section for comments. So this, hopefully that'll be around 7:45, and then after, if we could limit our time out there to maybe about 20 minutes to half an hour, we'll just come back in here for just comments and a question and answer. So whatever you want to speak about or thoughts that you may have after the presentation and the coffee break will stay. We're prepared to stay so that everybody can speak and make any comments that you want. So that's the agenda for tonight. We'll do this presentation, then a coffee break, and then sort of Q&A. So now, I should say, what is a Plan of Conservation and Development? It's something that the General Assembly of the state legislature has mandated be done for all of the communities here in Connecticut every 10 years. So you've got a 2015 plan, and so it's time, because it usually takes about, and we're going to get into the schedule for this, it usually takes about a year to do a plan. So you're doing it at the right time, 10 years later, and hopefully we can conclude it on time, and the committee and then the full planning commission will be in a position to act on the plan. So that's the idea. But as you can see, it's an expression of the community's values, but it's a policy guide. It's not like zoning, which is zoning's actual law tells you what your setbacks are for your house. It sets up rules, and that can be enforced. The plan is more of a guide, but what the plan does do is it sets the basis for zoning. there's some court cases that say this zoning ought to be based on a well-reasoned plan. So if the planning commission anticipates something that the zoning commission would want to do, we ought to get that. If it's a major planning zoning change, we ought to get a suggestion on that in the plan. The other thing is a capital budget items. If there's a major capital budget item that we become aware of, that ought to be discussed or be in the plan. So this last one, it's kind of a to-do list in terms of capital budget and items that the town would like to do over the next basically 10 years from 2005 through 2015. So I just wanted to go over, Scott's already introduced the committee, so just here's the, oh, sorry, I didn't, yep, there it is. So the core committee is Scott as chair, and you see all the names here on, most of this is members of the planning commission, but also, as you can see, the zoning commission is represented, and then conservation commission, economic development commission, so there's different people on our committee. And I think the thought was representing the plan of conservation and development, so development's represented, conservation, planning commission, and your zoning commission. And then our team here is indicated here on the right-hand side, and there's two specialty consultants working with us. One is on affordable housing. As this goes on, there also the state of Connecticut's mandated that an affordable housing plan be done. You've got one in place, and we're discussing with the committee how that might be updated over time. And then also there's someone from Time Bond, because our understanding was that sewer is an issue, an ongoing issue for the town, and Time Bond has done a tremendous amount of studies in this whole area down through the valley on utilities. So that's the overall group, and we're, as I mentioned earlier, as we produce things, we're giving them to Laura, and then they go to the committee, and then after going to the committee, they'll get put up on the website. So here is the overall project schedule. So basically, we're still in phase one. You can see us up at the top there in the first public workshop here in November. So that orange, brown, big circle there, that's tonight. And then what we've done to prepare for tonight is we've done some chapters, some sections called Brookfield Today, which we are transmitting to the committee so that they have basic information, which we're going to share with you tonight. For instance, demographics, social economic trends, existing land use, and zoning. You can see that under Brookfield Today. And then after this workshop, we've started some of them. We have what we call in those green circles. After this workshop, we'll be doing a number of meetings. They'll be with, for instance, department heads, commissions, and other groups in the town so that we get input from everyone as much as possible. And we're hoping in early next year, in January, February, to do a public survey. Once we get a chance to hear from you tonight and your comments on the boards outside, we'll take those. We know that other surveys have been done, and we're going to try to do a public survey, an online survey, although that we'll make available hard copies for that, and get into that. And then the work we'll be doing in phase two, we've called it. You can see the chapters here of the plan that are outlined. These kind of follow your existing, they're slightly different, but they follow basically your existing 2015 plan, but they also reflect the state law on what things should be considered in the plan. So we think these 10 chapters, I'm not going to read all of these, but these 10 chapters cover what's supposed to be covered in a plan of conservation and development, or a POCD. And as we get into those chapters, and a number of them all done, they'll be put up online so that when we get to the second public workshop, which we hope will be in April, so in the spring, we come back to a public workshop which would be even more, we hope, interactive, maybe some roundtable discussions. And then that will give you more input. And then once we get that, we'll produce a final plan with the committee. So the committee will be the decision maker on that. And then it will go to public hearing. And the public hearing, as you can see, we're targeting for September. So it's a ways off, but it moves fast. And so the public hearing, we hope, will be the Planning Commission's public hearing, because they're actually charged with doing the plan itself. And then after that, we'll meet with the Planning Commission, and we'll revise the plan based upon the comments they hear and their judgment of how to answer those comments. And then hopefully the plan could be adopted in November. For a plan adoption, that has to be sent out to the regional planning agency, WestCog, for comments, and your legislative body here for comments. So that's the schedule overall. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Emily.
Thanks, Frank. Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Tolbert. I'm the project manager from BFJ on this project, and I'm just going to continue where Frank left off. We're going to get into some of the existing conditions research that we've done so far. As Frank mentioned earlier, we've created a document called Brookfield Today, which is available on the project website, brookfieldpocd.com, and we will be posting draft chapters there as they come up, so you can visit that site and you can download this document for more details on the items that we're going to be presenting tonight. Also, repeating what Frank said earlier, some of the Connecticut laws that mandate the town to produce a plan, we've done a little bit of an outline of the planning context from which this document is coming from. So there's also a state level plan. The state has its own plan of conservation and development, and they are mandated to update it every 5 years. They're currently undergoing an update. The plan from the state is meant to direct state agencies, and it directs their priorities, what kind of projects they're going to fund, and the allocation of that funding. And municipal POCDs, they don't have to, agree or align with everything in there, but they do have to note inconsistencies with the state's 6 growth management principles. So we will make sure that we're doing that in Brookfield's plan. The Western Connecticut Council of Governments, they also have a regional plan of conservation and development, and the state also requires them to update their POCD every 10 years. They provide advisory guidance for the regional level for coordination between the various municipalities, and this should be integrated into the local planning process, but again, Brookfield doesn't necessarily have to agree with everything that WestCog is saying. At the local level, as Frank said earlier, Brookfield's plan of conservation and development was adopted in 2015, and state statutes require that municipalities update this plan every 10 years. If they do not update their plan within that time frame, then they're ineligible for discretionary state funding. So there is some money and incentive tied to updating the plan. Brookfield's affordable housing plan is active from 2022 through 2027. State statutes require that that plan is updated every 5 years. And the purpose of that plan is to enable low and moderate income individuals and families to access high opportunity communities and make affordable housing at least 10% of each municipality's housing stock. So these are just some maps of Brookfield and its regional context. I think all of you are familiar with the geography of Brookfield. You have Lake Candlewood Lake, Willenona Lake, the Housatonic River. You have Route 7 and 202 coming through the center of town. You have the Still River. I wanted to point out here on the map on this side, you can see the outline of where So we've started to look at some of the socio-demographic trends for Brookfield, and in 2020 census, Brookfield had about 17,500 people. Its population will continue to grow. These are projections provided by WestCog and the Connecticut Department of Health, but it's expected to grow at a slower rate. So in the years 1990 to 2020, Brookfield saw a growth of 24%, and in the next 30 years, we're looking at more of a 13% increase in population. So that's about 93 residents per year through 2050. We've also noted that Brookfield is becoming more diverse, and the racial and ethnic composition in Brookfield has changed over time. The largest change has been in the Hispanic and Latino population, which has increased from about 4% in 2010 to 8% in 2020, and that is about 800 people. And there's also been smaller increases in other racial groups. However, Brookfield is still a little bit less diverse than Fairfield County, which is about 58% white, 21% Hispanic, and 10% Black. Brookfield is 79% white, 8% Hispanic, and 2% Black. The population in Brookfield is aging, and we see a lot of indicators that are showing us that. The median age has increased by about 6.4 years. 6.4 years in the past 20 years. So that was 39 years old in 2000, and 45.5 is the median age in 2020. You also see an increasing share of households that have seniors, people over 65 living in those households, and that's increased from 21% in 2000 to 36% in 2020. And at the same time, you see a declining share of households with children. In 2000, that was 41%, and now that's about 32%. And when you're looking at these groupings by age, you'll see that most of the increase in numbers of people is in the 50 years and older category, while most of the groups that are under 50 have declined. However, there has been some growth in the 20 to 29 population, which might be due to the new multifamily housing that's been built in Brookfield. So following those trends, Brookfield schools have also seen a decline in enrollment. This was a trend that was observed during the last POCD, and this trend has continued. It's down from 2,800 students in 2013. It's about 2,600 students in 2023, and projections look like it's going to kind of level out at that number. So you're looking at about 2,500 students in 2033, which is about the same as this year's enrollment. And it's important to point out that this is a national trend with the declining fertility rate. Nationally, you need at least a 2.1 rate to replace the population, and the country is well below that at 1.66 in 2022, and in Connecticut it's even lower at 1.55. So in Brookfield overall, there's 7,116 housing units. You have about a 6% vacancy rate. However, when you look at that a little closer, you see that only 1% of units are available for rent and only 1% are available for sale, so it is a pretty tight housing market. 81% of the housing units in Brookfield are occupied by owners. The remainder are occupied by renters. And over the past 5 years or so, from 2016 to 2023, there's been an increase in residential units of about 450 units. 385 of those are multifamily units, meaning 3 or more units per building, and the remainder of those would be single family. You've also added 45 affordable units to your housing stock and 52 units through the town's incentive program. And in the pipeline through 2026, Brookfield is looking at another 445 units that are under construction and another 443 that have been planned. So I'm going to pass it over to Evan, who's going to continue with existing conditions.
Hi. So I'm going to discuss land use in Brookfield quickly. There are about 20 square miles in Brookfield, 1,100 of which 1,100 acres of roads and 500 industrial, which can mostly be found along the Federal Road corridor. And we've seen a recent increase in the multifamily residential land use, especially around the Four Corners area. 2 and 3 family residential is actually quite rare in Brookfield. Moving on to zoning, you can see on the right that the majority of Brookfield is zoned residential. There's a variety of different residential zones which range from 7,000 square feet and up in an R7 zone to 100,000 square feet and up in an R100 zone. So in an R7 zone, the houses can be closer together, and in an R100 zone, they have to be farther apart. So you can see that towards the west of the town is more of the R100, R80 larger residential zoning areas, and in the east of the town towards Lake Candlewood, you can see some R7 and R15 zoning. The commercial and industrial districts, like we saw in the land use map previously, largely follow the Federal Road corridor, with some exceptions for marine commercial near Candlewood Lake and industrial near I-84. We also see a corporate park district towards the south near Bethel. There is also a town center district, which is intended to promote mixed use. This is in the Four Corners area, and the goal is to create a downtown destination environment. But as you may know, there's currently a moratorium on new multifamily permits in the TCD, as well as in the Gateway North and South districts, and this moratorium is until December 2026. This slide just shows some of the major routes through Brookfield, which I'm sure you are all aware of. The Connecticut routes include 133 and 25. U.S. routes include Route 7, which is a main artery, and Route 202, which we also know as Federal Road. And there is a bit of Interstate 84, which cuts through the southernmost part of the town. Here we can see the average annual daily traffic on the different major routes through Brookfield. And we've called out on the left here this junction between Route 7 and Route 84, where daily there are around 120,000 vehicles, which then split off into Brookfield and other points via 84. But we also see that Federal Road and Route 7 are pretty heavily used as well, with 25,000 cars per day towards the north of the town. And I'm going to pass it back to Frank. Thank you.
Well, you've heard a lot of facts and figures, but all of them, I just want to say again, all of them and everything we produce will eventually be on the website so that you'll be able to access all of this. We've tried to do a summary of what the data is. So tonight, just again, where are we today, November 21? You can see this first opening workshop. So we have a lot of work to do, and then we want to have those opportunities for you again to participate. And that starts tonight at the break, and then with the public survey in the winter, January, February, and the public workshop in April, and then the completion of these chapters, they'll all be online before the public hearing. And quite frankly, we try to do this and to emphasize that this really needs to be your plan, the committee's plan, and ultimately the Planning Commission's plan. So it's very important to set the vision and the goals for this plan so that you have really participated in that effort. And of course, also what we're trying to do with the public involvement. I've yet to, maybe I have occasionally, but I've done, as you can tell from the hair here, I'm not one of the younger people on our staff. I've been through a number of plans, and what we like to avoid, and this happens to us all the time, you get to the final public hearing and someone comes up and says, I never heard of this. What are you all doing? So we hope that we can, through this public participation efforts, the surveys, the workshops, if you could help us too, get that word out to friends, to email lists and so on, so that would be very helpful to us. So the message here, as you can see, is we hope you can get involved, and we hope others can get involved with this. And this just kind of summarizes public survey again, the workshop, survey in the winter, workshop in the spring, public hearing in the fall. Here's your mailing list, www.brookfieldpocd.com, and then you can email us at this email, pocd@brookfieldct.gov. So we hope that you can participate and that urge your neighbors to participate. I usually find that a first workshop like this, I said to the chair, the first workshop like this, unless there's some giant controversy, which we're not aware of here, you know, you get a relatively modest turnout, and then we're working in another town where, in Orange, where there was an announcement by Stu Leonard's that they might come in, and that created a attendance of about 120 people at a meeting. And then when Stu Leonard's did not sign the rent agreement, our second meeting had about 30 people. So I think where people tend to be in agreement with the visions of the plan, we get turnouts that reflect that, actually, in a way. So hopefully you can participate in all of these efforts. And I just want to summarize, and this is our sort of last, or second to last slide, before we take a break for coffee. Your vision, we broke it down, your vision statement, we broke it down into these sort of 6 areas. And one is what we would expect in a community like this. Most people, as Emily said, live in a single-family home. Ownership is high here. You have zoning that reflects the fact that most of the people are living in areas that don't have sewer, and the state plan encourages single-family homes on 60,000 square foot lots where you don't have sewer. So your first vision here was to maintain the Brookfield's country, this was supposed to have an R in there, country charm. And I think what's meant by that is preserving your residential neighborhoods. And that's the first part of the vision. Second part is enhancing your parks and your open spaces. And that's important in your current, these are your current 2015 vision statement. And then though, the tax base is important, people said in the past, so that some economic growth is important in your commercial areas. And then the fourth item, the 2015 plan said, is some diversity in the housing stock. And I think that's important because as people age in place in a single-family home, it starts, as the children move away, it starts to get expensive for people. They might want another choice in housing, or young people trying to move in. So the diversity of housing stock was important. And then, as you can see, a focus on public infrastructure. You've got to have the infrastructure to support what you're doing, particularly sewers. So that's been a focus. And then special to here in the 2015 plan was create a more pedestrian village effect at Four Corners. And I think we've seen a lot of things done. There's been a lot of things that have changed since that time. So those are the 6 sort of points that we've sort of tried to summarize the vision of the 2015 plan and see if we got it right out there on the boards. And so with that, we're really at a point where I just wanted to talk with you on this slide about simply, before the break, when you go out now for coffee, there's going to be 3 different sets of boards. I shouldn't call them different, they're identical groupings. And we're hoping there's 3 of us here. There's 3 sets of boards. One of us will be at each of those sets. And I think the committee's going to break itself up at the coffee break also. So what we're hoping is that where you really agree with one of the statements in the 2015 vision, you got dots out there. Just put a green dot on it. If you really agree with something and you want it emphasized in this coming plan, put 2 dots on it. And if you disagree with something, you're unhappy with it, put a red dot on it. And then to explain, we know that's a somewhat simplistic way of doing things. You need to have space to comment, and there's space on each of the boards out there to comment on those 2015 goals, and also then to talk about the future, if you want to, what a future goal or vision should be. So there's space to talk about that also. And also you'll have us and committee members out there to talk to. We're hoping that this break can give you that opportunity. We'll come back after the break for question and answers, just comments that you want to make. So I'd suggest that we take a break now, and maybe we could aim to come back at, say, 8 o'clock. Gives you a good amount of time for coffee and just to talk to people and to talk to us. So that's what we hope you can do. And then we will, after you do all those dot point exercises, we'll collect all the boards. We're going to write a report of tonight and report what you said and what you put on the boards, and the committee will get that. And then we'll move on with starting writing in our chapters. So again, thank you all for coming in. Please have some coffee, and we'll all be outside. It's outside, as you know, as you came in. So thank you.
Love to see everybody out in the lobby. This is the part where we're asking for your input. Please join us.
Probably better. I did publicize that.
Okay, come on.
Oh, I
How
know.
can I know?
To the day we die.
I just like it.
I'm like Barnes, I'm the newest call. I figured.
What gave it away, right?
I guess I'm hiding in front of you. Pretty impressive, I gotta tell you. Melanie came in, I sat down, Jim Fisher came over, Bob and me. Oh, no, that was just something I did when I was in college. That's not what I went to study, data analytics.
Did you do it after the fact? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
You forgive Dan anything.
Stu's is a great
He's the
company,
same.
and
He really
Charter,
is.
I'm very happy there.
I bet it is.
And it's nice that
You knew I was thinking. Yeah, I wish. I thought about it at times, but then I'll never leave.
wants to start and just, again, just questions, comments, whatever you would like on the process or the vision for the plan. And it may be where the committee wants to answer some of those, or we answer them, or we may not know the answer, and we'll tell you that too. So, anybody with any comments, questions?
And we've got planning, economic development, zoning, conservation, all represented here.
Hi, good evening. I don't know if you need a name or not, but just for the record, my name is Eric Myers. I live at 2 Code Road in Brookfield. And I won't take much time. I just wanted to make a couple of observations from my history in other jurisdictions of trying to implement master plans. And the first thing I want to mention is I was really pleased to hear Frank mention that one of the outcomes of the POCD is that there should be, it should be interpretable so that, you know, when the Planning Commission has done their job and finished it, and it's been adopted by whoever needs to adopt it, that the Zoning Commission can then take that language and interpret it, you know, with the amount of reason that any reasonable person would have. So that's one thing I was happy to hear and hope that it does, because a lot of the language in the previous one is should or will, or, you know, not the strong words that, you know, will give some guidance to the next level of detail. The other thing I wanted to mention, and probably the people sitting at the table will hate me for bringing this up, but you know, my experience is if you don't put some time frames on getting some of these tasks done, or at least progress, and some kind of report back to the Board of Selectmen, things will drift along for 10 years and you'll be in a very similar spot except for any incoming crisis in the meantime. And finally, the last thing I want to mention, which I think you know, one of the consultants mentioned as well, is, you know, if you can't control your utilities, whether it be water, sewer, electricity, or whatever, you really have a hard time controlling development of either industry, heavier commercial, multifamily, or anything that is not suitable for well and septic tank development. So those three, you know, comments are the only thing I wanted to make. So.
No, thanks very much. And I'm just going to comment on one thing, because you just reminded me that we forgot to say this in a way, but at the end of the plan, we like to have that final chapter with deadlines on it, timeframes. And then it's up to the commission if they want to, because we just went through this, we're on the other end of the process in Newtown. The plan's done, it's being sent, it's already been sent to Westcott, it's being sent to the legislative body, but we're putting timeframes on for, in Newtown's case, it's a P&Z, and they said, no, we want to have a check on this every year. So they wanted to check themselves every year, and they've set up a subcommittee to do that. So timeframes, they're very important, and we try in the final chapter to set those up. Of course, it's going to be up to the committee, but it's a way to do that and to respond to that.
Yeah, that's something that we noted as a planning commission, is that we did not have anything in there that said, hey, planning commission, go do a review of this document every 5 years. I think every 2.5 years is probably a logical way to go. Two times every 5 years. I don't know if it's ever been reviewed in 10 years since it was adopted. So that's something I think that we've already discussed that I think we'd like to add to this. The other thing that was brought up is, being able to, making sure, you know, that this document, whatever it is organized and readable. And we know this in the planning commission, because when things are referred to us, we have to refer to the document and find what we need in there. So that's very much on my mind.
Hi, I'm Chair of the Zoning Commission. In regards to sewer, it's interesting because we just implemented a multifamily housing moratorium with that in mind, that the fact that we're near the edge of our sewer capacity, and that if we hit that 90% of capacity, a sewer moratorium comes down and stops not only multifamily development, but all commercial development in town. So we wanted there to be a balance of different types of commercial. It doesn't stop multifamily development in all of Brookfield, just in 3 specific zones. And the rest of the zones, of course, still can have it, like the residential zones, and then some commercial zones. The other thing is our 2 commissions will be merged as of 2025. And the deadline for that moratorium is predicated on both the merging of our 2 commissions in 2025, the resulting any zoning changes from the new POCD, and a chance for that new commission to be able to understand the new POCD, the new regs, and get their legs under them, and before the moratorium ends in December 1st of 2026. So I just want to mention that.
Hi, I've got 2 categories of questions. The first is, on our existing POCD, there's almost no discussion on emergency services. And 10 years ago, that really wasn't much of a concern or an issue. As you all know, there was an EMS study done 6 or 8 months ago. It's about a 200-page document. And I think there really needs to be a hard look in this POCD when it comes to emergency services. The volunteer fire department provides a tremendous value to this town. And there are needs and facilities to upgrade them to where they need to be. My second comment is about unfunded mandates. 10 years ago, I don't recall when we did this, that we had any discussion about what was legislated on what had to be done as determined by the legislature. 2 things come to mind that I think will impact the town's priorities for the next 10 years. The first is police station. The state has mandated every town have a police station that meets certain standards. Our current police station doesn't do that. So that is, I'll put that in the category of an unfunded mandate that I know you all will consider. The second thing is affordable housing, 830G. 830G has been around for about 24 or 25 years. And now, as I understand, the new legislature is even going to be more empowered, I believe, to, I hope it doesn't happen, take away some housing or authority from our local zoning regulations. So my question for you on the consultants, how are you going to take into account current mandates legislated to the towns, and how are you going to take into account those things that may be coming within the next 10 years? They can undermine any priorities we choose to do here.
Thank you. Yeah, Greg, as you know, we're not going to, as consultants, have control over, what happens in Hartford, but we will be updating the planning committee with what we get, from our professional organization, which you're familiar with, Connecticut chapter of APA and the legislation branches, and we get from our own, we have an attorney we do a lot of work with in Hartford, and he's very up on what the changes are, for instance, in the affordable housing and 830G. So we'll be aware of those. We're also looking at, in our contract, is to update the housing, the affordable housing plan. So mainly Thomas Madden is going to be working on that. He already met with the committee. So we'll look at that fairly carefully. The other thing that you mentioned is, yes, we're going to try to, obviously among stakeholders, we're going to meet with the fire department, we're going to meet with the police department, and make sure that we go over that, what those needs, capital budget needs are. So we'll try to do both of those.
I've got 2 questions myself. Kurt, you mentioned that there are several areas in town that you're looking at the ability to handle sewage. And, there are limits and you know where they are. My question is, has anyone looked at the amount of our aquifer, how much more housing our water supply will sustain? Most of us have wells, and of course, that's groundwater, and we don't want to see that recede because it's overuse. So I don't know if anyone's done any hydrology, but if there is, I'd like to see that. The other thing is, and this is just a comment, I was looking out there and it said about open space and land trusts, private land trusts. And it mentioned Brookfield Open Space Legacy and Weatnog. Brookfield Open Space Legacy merged with Weatnog several years ago, and Weatnog has also assumed several other smaller land trusts, and now they are one of the 10th largest land trusts in the country, well over 10,000 acres that they preserve. And when we say open space, we mean open space that will never be developed in the future. Right now, Brookfield has 14% open space and 8% vacant land. The NCLC, or the Land Trust, right now has a program going on where we're trying to preserve 30% of the land in Northwest Connecticut for climate mitigation and other environmental impact things. So we can't get there because we have 14%, which is about half of it. But we all have 8% vacant land, so there's no way, they're not making any more land, so we're never going to get up to that level. Hopefully all the land up in Litchfield County will help us to do that. But I just wanted to make that, it's an important part of what I do, and hopefully just want to get the information out there. Thank you.
Just so you know, I didn't mention this earlier either, but part of our consultant team are people that are very familiar with particularly sewer here, and that's Ty and Bond and civil engineers. And I'll ask them your question about water, and there may be some people in the room who know quite a bit about that, but we'll have Ty and Bond look at that question.
Anyone else?
My wife's going to like me tonight. I might get home on time, What? Scott, back to you. I want to thank everybody on our behalf because this was very helpful to get all these dot point exercises done. And we hope that when the survey comes in the winter, you'll participate, tell your neighbors and tell your friends about it. So, because we do want, the last thing that I always say this, but this cannot be our plan. It's not, we're supposed to be assisting the town, but the town needs to make the policy calls through basically the planning commission here and this one, but also your comments, they will listen to, the committee's listening to, as we will, but it needs to be your plan if it's going to be effective. In other words, because the danger for us, the classic is, classical saying, planning is, the plan ends up on a shelf, and that's the worst possible thing for a plan. It needs to have your support and have been developed by you and by the planning commission, so we hope that's what will happen. So from our point of view, thank you. This is very helpful for us.
What did you guys think of the format out there? Putting the stickers on and stuff? Worked out pretty well for everybody? I see the thumbs up. That was pretty successful. Well, let everybody know what they missed. All right? Spread the word. I appreciate everybody coming out on the first rainy night we've had in quite some time. As it was pointed out earlier, this is one step in the process. We'll encourage more feedback as we go along. We'll have surveys. Please continue to reach out to us through the website they have, brookfieldpocd.com. There's ways to send us emails. We want to hear from you guys. Well, we've already heard from you guys. Spread the word. We want to hear from everybody. So we appreciate